Mr. Stream. There's Mr. Baker Senior. You want me to put you want to put some other members on the associate members on the board?
That's totally up to you.
That'll work for me if you're okay with it. That way, if you do have to take off, you can.
Right. That's
All
fine.
right. All right, and I got 7:30 on the clock. All right, welcome everybody to the October 18th meeting, or hearing rather, of the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. Everybody should be aware that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. That's number one. Number two, all members of the board at this point are participating remotely. That would be myself, Rob Rosa. That would be Mr. Greg Tanzi, Mr. Baker, Mr. Bob Baker Sr., Mr. Timothy Haynes, Mr. Robert Baker Jr., and associate member, Mr. Stephen Galley. Steve, log back out and put in Stephen Galley, please.
Oh, I'm using a different computer. I never had to, sorry. I never had used this one for this. I'll be back.
No, I dig it. I'll be back. We'll be back in a second. And currently Nicole is not here, but I'm assuming she's going to come back in here. Just as I said to Mr. Galley, rules for this meeting are anybody that's attending this remote public hearing has to log in with their full name. Anything other than that is going to get you bounced. And if I bounce you, you can't come back in. So anybody that wants to participate has to log out, or that doesn't have their full name has to log out and log back in with their full name. You'll have 5 minutes to do it. So we got all that. And other than that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Need a second?
I'll
A
second.
second from Mr. Haynes. I saw his lips move, so I'm
I'm
going to say
muted.
All right, roll call. Myself is a yes. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Senior,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Junior,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes.
Yes.
Hearing's open. Let me get back to the, what the heck is it? Legal ad. Let's go. So we've got 7:30 p.m. remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. on the application submitted by WN Realty LLC, care of Stephen M. Guard, Esquire, Guard Law LLC, 1165 Washington Street, Hanover, Mass. 02339 for a special permit pursuant to sections 415-21.3, route 3/4 sign monopole off premises electronic billboard pursuant to zoning bylaw 415-21.3 and the development and impact fee host community agreement by and between the applicant and the town of Rockland dated December 7th, 2021, being a portion of the real property at the premises known as and numbered 61 Acorn Park Drive, Rockland, Massachusetts. The property is located in the Business 2 zoning district, section 415-14, and the Route 3/4 sign overlay district, section 415-21.3 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lot 11, map 5 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner of the property is WN Realty LLC, 109 Acorn Park Drive, Rockland, Massachusetts. Further details and plans for this project are on file in town clerk and with the town clerk, on zoning board's office, and on the town's website. Attorney Gar, are you here?
I am, sir.
There you go, sir. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How was everyone this evening? So as we all know, we're familiar with this project. It's already it was discovered after the public notice and the public hearing and the closing and the approval that there was a technical defect in the notification that some Norwell abutters didn't get notice. So the initial purpose of this hearing was to allow them the opportunity to chime in on the previous application so that the board members understand nothing has changed on the application, not one single thing. There are a couple of housekeeping things that I'm going to ask you to do for us based on what we got for feedback from the Mass DOT public hearing. So that having been said, the reason for this hearing was to cure the defect. However, since that has happened, the 90 days under the statute has passed, so it's likely academic, but nonetheless, belts and suspenders is always the motive around here. So that the opening of this public hearing cures that any issue with that respect. So The second thing that was discovered at the public hearing with the Mass DOT is that there was an error in the decision in that well, I shouldn't say that. The decision references the board is allowed to change every 8 seconds. The host agreement in the Mass DOT regulations allow the board to change no quicker than every 10 seconds. Now, your condition actually meets the standard for that because it says it can't switch any fewer than 8 seconds. So 10 seconds would be fine, right? Think about it. More than 8. But I couldn't convince the Mass DOT, the outdoor advertising director, of that. So I said, look, we're going to go back for the Norwell thing. I'll ask the zoning board to just make the simple change from 8 to 10. So it matches the host agreement. It matches the Mass DOT. There are 2 sections, 2 references in the decision, special condition number 7. And then there is a finding section. It's identified by the statutory reference or the regulatory reference of the zoning bylaw as 415-21.3 E6, E6C, which I gave to Deb. I'm not as concerned about that one because that's just, hey, it's part of the proposal, 8 seconds. But if we could change both, it'll just clean that up. The third thing that was discovered at the Mass DOT hearing was that the director didn't like the conditions number 2 and 3. By that I say, like, when you read the 2 conditions, it does imply that there is that the board didn't actually approve this finding. It's more like, if you read it, it says that the proposed billboard may not have a material visual impact to any abutting or adjacent residential zone. So I argued to the outdoor advertising director that, well, the decision already found it's approved, right? So they made that finding inherent in its approval. He didn't really buy it. He wanted more clarification. So I'm not, and the same goes for number 3, which is about the illumination negatively impact properties shining onto the abutting roadway. So what I think that those 2 conditions are meant to really be that there shall be no further visual impact to the neighborhoods. There'll be no further light pollution to the, if any there is, then approved, because obviously we're not increasing or changing what was approved. So I guess I'm proposing that to clarify those 2 conditions, we add the language that essentially the proposed billboard may not have any additional or any further material visual impact to any abutting or adjacent residential zone than as approved. I think that would satisfy Mass DOT that, and it meets what I think is the spirit of that condition for the board. In other words, you've approved what's there, but we don't want any further impact on the neighborhoods, if there is any impact at all. Same with number 3, you'd add the same words that the proposed lighting or other illumination related to the proposed billboard shall not have any further or additional glare negatively impact abutting properties or shine onto the roadways than approved. Does that make sense, Rob? That I don't know how else to address it other than have the board.
No, I agree with what you're saying. It does make sense to me. It's the rest of the board. If the board wanted, I'd like the board to chime in. Then the condition number 7, that's a no-brainer. That's just like you said, house cleaning situation. That's fine. Number 2 and number 3, material visual impact to any abutting or adjacent residential zone. I looked on both Google Earth and Mass GIS. The only abutting residential, the only abutting residential is on Pond Street, and that's on the other side of the highway. Let's see, what can we say here? The highway itself is elevated in relation to the property. The billboard is going to be 60 feet in the air. The abutting buildings, the one on 61 and the one at 101 Airport Park Drive in Norwell, as well as 109. Those buildings are 20 feet tall, 22 feet tall from what I'm getting. And so again, the billboard itself is going to be about 40 feet higher than that. The ground elevation of the highway, I believe, is, I can tell you right now, ground elevation of the highway is roughly 10 feet higher than the ground elevation of the abutting site, the abutting site where the Billboard is gonna go. And the residential zone, the residential area on Pond Street is roughly about 15 feet lower than that. So when you couple in the fact that the trees are all about 60 feet high, it's gonna, I can't say that they're not gonna see it, but it's not gonna be directly, I can't see it being directly seen from from that residential area, if that helps everybody. And again, my references are Mass GIS, Google Earth, and the Rockland Assessors Maps. So it's really up to the board if they feel that the other two conditions kind of work. They're not going to see the residential zone. That's not going to see any of the light impacts from the billboard. The only people that are going to get any kind of light impact whatsoever is going to be the two in Norwell. And again, we approved this with all. Again, it's supposed to be dark, the dark sky lighted. That's an engineering term. I don't really know. But anybody that wants to chime in, board members, talk to me. If you got any questions whatsoever for Attorney Guard, if I can answer any questions based on some of the documentation that I have. And again, this is all documentation that you guys can pull up on your laptops as well.
So Rob, I think both of those were findings. Those were things we were supposed to vote. So the wording comes out of the bylaw, and so there's some. I see that there's some confusion because when we voted to approve the plan, we were voting to say we have found that those things are true,
right?
Like that it doesn't have negative impacts. Like our approval has that. So it sounds like we just need to word it in a way that's more affirming that we've actually found those things to be true in this process,
absolutely
in the approval. So
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Mr. Hayes. That's exactly the way John put it to me from Mass DOT, was that I need confirmation that the board is satisfied that the approved plan complies with conditions 2 and 3. And the conditions as written suggest that it's not like down the road it will be approved. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a disconnect a little bit. And he asked the same question that you just artfully summarized.
So those should be pulled out and put into a findings section. Like
That would be even better, Rob. That would be even better. Correct. Yeah.
Tim, does that work? Was there any other findings that we kind of had to make?
So as I'm sitting here, I was flipping through trying to find that section. I don't find in my paperwork, I can't find the bylaw itself. It was an add-on. It's that special thing. So we'll have to pull it up. We'll just have to pull up the bylaw and double check it. But I'm
Yeah, any chance you can pull that up off the E-code? Or Tony, if you wanna ring in?
I was just gonna say, Rob, that if DOT only flagged a couple of the issues that we can fix for the applicant, we should probably just fix those ones and not start rearranging the whole decision if they didn't have issues with the other parts of it.
Gotcha. Board members, and actually, we didn't talk about who's gonna be voting on this. It's gonna be myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Baker Jr., and Mr. Galley. I'm gonna step you up on this one.
Okay.
By the way, that's also if Steve agrees. I just don't want to mess with their approval more than what DOT is looking for, just to get them over their hump.
I would agree, and we should just find the language that satisfies everybody here for the question.
Yeah.
And Steve, Attorney Guard.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I don't think if it wasn't shown to be broke, then we don't need to fix it. So because honestly, the findings are listed in the the references that are in the decision that I wrote out, the proposed, material aspect of the application. It would be a very much harder, daunting task to go through each of those and then have the board approve them. So I think we're okay, provided that I think the outdoor advertising board was just concerned that, is the town satisfied with those two conditions? Because they're worried about, the residential neighborhoods. And I tried to explain that by virtue of their approval of the plan, they are, but the way it's worded is a little confusing. And if those could be made findings, and essentially, that the board makes the finding that the board as proposed does not have any material impact on the et cetera, it would be very simple.
So if we looked at, technically, if we looked at conditions 1, 2, and 3 and turned those into findings,
Yep, yes.
that work,
Yes,
board members,
absolutely.
how do we feel, board members?
Works for me.
Everybody happy? Board members, more specifically voting board members, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Acceptable.
All right, so we're we're kind of we're pretty much all in agreement on that. Well, obviously, we're gonna have to vote after, so it is what it is. The only other thing that I want to do is I want to just for any of the abutting Norwell, Norwell people that didn't get notified before, if anybody's available and wants to ask any questions, this is your time. Apologize for the late notice on this, but this is why we're doing it, because you deserve it. So anybody's available that wants to ask questions about this, please raise your hand or let me know who you are and we'll go from there. Hearing none, does anybody have any additional comments? Do they want to speak in favor of the application? Do they want to speak opposed? And at this point, I'm going to say hearing none. So now I have to get my cheat sheet, which I didn't get before.
Well, we have to close the hearing first.
Yeah, I know. I got to get my cheat sheet first. That way I know what I have to say here. Question 2, questions, hearing none. All right, I would entertain a motion to close the open portion of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
I got a second right there. Roll call. Myself is a yes. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yeah.
Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Rock and roll. All right, Attorney Gar. The board will deliberate tonight and you are welcome to stay. You will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp, 21 days from the date stamp on the decision. Go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. And if no one is appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. Question is, do you have to show anything over in Norwell?
No, I don't believe so. No, because in Norwell, it's not subject to the normal permitting process, just the abutters. Get
Okay,
notice.
I just wanted to make sure on that one.
Good question, but no.
But other than that, and we're good to go. I got 7:48, so I can open the other public hearing. I can open the next. Thank you, Attorney Guard.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate your time on this.
Not a problem. Get rid of this one. Let's go back to here. Okay, here we go. No, that's that one. Okay, 7:48. Here we go. 7:45 p.m. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 at 7:45 p.m. on the application submitted by Forrest Delahunt Development LLC, 276 Wayman Street, Rockland, Massachusetts, for an appeal from the decision of the zoning enforcement officer dated August 18th, 2022, and a dimensional variance pursuant to the zoning bylaws, section 415-41 appeals and section 415-45 regulations and signs allowed in each district, the section 415-89.1 zoning variances to allow the applicant to construct a 100 square foot aluminum wall sign on the facade of the premises that is currently under construction, known as the Lovell Academy and numbered 80 Bill Delahunt Parkway, Rockland, Massachusetts. The property is located in both the R2 Residence Zoning District, section 415-9 of the bylaw, and the I2 Industrial Park Zoning District, section 415-16 of the bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 3, Map 13, Lot 92, Map 14, and lots 47 and 108, map 19 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner of the property is Forrest Delahunt Development LLC, 276 Wayman Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. Further details and plans for this project are on file in the town clerk's office and zoning board offices and on the town's website. Now I got a kicker. We've got a second one that I believe we can run this at the same time. Because it's the first one's for the Lovell Academy. The second one is for the skating rink. Same applicant, right next door to each other, same purposes. Board members, do we have a problem running this concurrently, and dealing with this all at the same time. Individual decisions, but having the applicant discuss both projects at the same time.
I have no problem with that.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Give me an
There's
additional.
no issues with advertising or anything like that?
It's been advertised as, it's been advertised at the same time.
Okay,
So as far as I can see, and Tony's not raising an eyebrow at this point, saying, I don't think this is a problem.
No, it's fine.
Thank you,
Just
Tony.
separate votes and separate decisions at the end, that's all.
Perfect. Let me just read that. Just give me 32 seconds here. Remotely conduct 7:45 PM. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, October 18, 2022. At 7:45 PM on the application submitted by Forest Delahunt Development LLC, 276 Weymouth Street, Rockland, Massachusetts, for an appeal from the decision of the zoning enforcement officer dated August 18th, 2022, and a dimensional variance pursuant to zoning bylaws section 415-41 appeals and section 415-45 regulations and signs allowed in each district, and section 415-89.1 zoning variances to allow the applicant to construct an 85 square foot aluminum and acrylic wall sign on the facade of the Lovell Arena that is currently under construction at the premises known as and numbered 120 Bill Delahunt Parkway, Rockland, Massachusetts. The property is located in both the R2 residence zoning district, section 415-9 of the bylaw, and the I2 industrial park zoning district, section 415-16 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lots 3 and 6, map 13, lots 2 and 92, map 14, and lots 47 and 108, map 19 on the Rockland Assessor's maps. The property is Forest Delahunt LLC, 276 Weymouth Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. For the details and plans for this project are on file with the town clerk's office and zoning board offices and on the town's website. Done. Voting on this will be myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Baker Jr. And guess what, Nicole? You're up. There you go. There's the smile. Mr. Grady, how you doing, sir?
I am good, thanks.
Would you
Mr.
like to
Rosa,
begin?
I would. Thank you very much for all that reading. I hope I don't have to speak as much as you just read into this meeting, but we'll see. I just want to start out in general, showing you what the signs are going to look like, and then we'll talk about how the board can approve the variances as I've laid out in my applications and letters. So you're probably all aware these two buildings are under construction. The Lovell Arena, they're actually skating there now. They have, I believe, temporary occupancy at the moment. What they'd like to do is install a sign. Can I share screen?
Absolutely, sir. As long as it's up on the bottom, you can go for it.
Okay. Can we see the sign? Everybody see the signs okay there?
Gotcha.
Okay. So under the bylaw, the signs are allowed to be 24 square feet. As you know, what a hockey arena is a pretty good sized building. That the facade, the front facade on the arena itself is over 11,000 square feet. If you put a 24 square foot sign on it, you would be basically looking at this sign here. That would be covering 0.2% of the front of the building. They're requesting an 85 square foot sign that will cover 0.07% of the front face of the building. I just want to point out that these signs will not be visible from the public roadways. These signs are not intended to be advertising signs that attack you as you drive down the road. These signs are designed to fit the architectural style and the massing of the buildings. The intent is to not overwhelm people and say, buy hockey, and come to the, and in the other instance, apply to our school. These are signs that, again, fit the massing of the building, let you know you've arrived at the property. And their intent is to make the buildings look good and fit into the architectural style, as I said. So here's the Lovell Arena. sign. It's 85 square feet. The way it's cut out here, it does have a, I guess I'll call it a frame that it's posted on. But in general, it's a blue white sign. As I said, it's covering 0.7% of the building.
Kevin, can I ask a question?
You may.
Is it it looks like only the lettering is going to be light, is going to be lit.
Correct.
Okay.
And it will conform to the bylaw. I believe it's 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. They're allowed to be lit, so it'll conform to those requirements. On the arena, the sign is on the site plan is located in this corner of the front building. You drive in, and as you arrive at the end of the driveway, you can see the sign here. It is not faced toward any residential abutters. It is faced directly toward the entrance of, sorry, this file's pretty big, so excuse me for one sec.
Well, if you had provided the as-built file.
I got to do the pretty picture one that has all sorts of data on it. I'm just trying to get you the dimensions to the abutting properties and streets here. So this sign is located 750 feet from Forest Street. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see it from the active roadway. It's 550 plus or minus feet to the nearest dwelling here. And it's 1,100 feet setback from Bill Delahunt. And then we'll take a quick look at any questions on layout of this sign before I switch over and take a look at the Academy signage.
Board members, are you good at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds good to me. Keep going, Kevin.
You got it. The arena, the Academy sign. Again, this sign isn't visible from any roadways. This sign we're proposing is 100 square feet. At least the part that it's hung on is 100 square feet. The actual sign itself is a little bit smaller than that. 9 by 9, 9 by a little under 9, so somewhere around 81, 90 square feet, somewhere in there. This building also, this building is almost 4,000 square feet, and it's street facing or driveway facing front facade. The 100 square foot coverage is approximately 2.5% of this face and this face that you'll be looking at from the entrance. A 24 square foot sign will look really small on this site, on this building. So again, the sign company, the owner, and the architects are trying to design signs that fit the buildings. They're not advertising to anybody on the public way. The only sign that somebody's going to be able to see from Bill Delahunt Parkway is a monument sign. That's not before you tonight. That sign is actually conforming to the bylaw, and we've submitted an application that's, I believe it's been approved to be installed. So the purpose is that these buildings are pretty large, and the signage needs to be seen from the entrances. See if I have, so I have the setbacks. Oh, no pretty colors on this one. This one actually moves. So this sign is on this corner of the building. It faces Bill Delahunt up here. It's about 350 feet off of the right of way. The residential, any residences a backyard is obviously facing away from anybody. It's 650 feet approximately from this dwelling here, and it's about 580 feet off of Forest Street.
That was and those dimensions to Bill Delahunt, that's, I mean, dimension wise, it's going straight, that's a wetland in there, right?
Correct. So this is a wetland here. There's 25-foot no disturb zone, sometimes 50, but this woodland is going to be here in perpetuity, so that you will not be able to see that. So this dotted line here is a wetland resource area.
Same
So
thing with the one on the other side of the other side of the roadway, correct?
Sorry, I don't follow.
Keep going to the left, keep going to the left, all the way in there. That's all a wetland. up
Oh
in there.
yeah, this is all wetland. The arena is completely blocked by woodland
Vegetation.
throughout this, vegetation and woodland. The striped lines you see here are conservation restriction. So this will be restricted from development in perpetuity. So that will not be visible from Delahunt Parkway. These are residential owners in here already. These are already developed. So we're set back there. Again, this hatching here is a conservation restriction. This, you'll never see signage from Forest Street due to the vegetation there. So any questions on the massing or the layout of any of these? And I guess the reason we are asking for them, and then I can get into the circumstances and the merits of the application and how it conforms to the variance requirements.
Fine. Board members, let's get some questions out. Mr. Tanzi, you got any questions for the applicant, for the applicant's rep?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. Mr. Haynes, I see you next in line.
Oh, I was just going to confirm on the sign sheet, it said not illuminated. So I just want to make sure I understand there will be no illumination integral or on the building lighting the sign on the Academy sign.
That is correct. Good eyes.
And the background color will match the color of the siding.
Yes, exactly. That's the idea, to have the logo jump out, and this is really just a support to mount the sign upon.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Mr. Baker Jr.
Nothing as of right now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Nicole, talk to me.
I have no questions at this time.
That's fine. Mr. Galley, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions for the applicant specifically. He already answered my concern about vegetation, like the wetlands that wouldn't get disturbed, so the sign wouldn't be visible from certain places. But I do have a question I'll ask you.
Okay.
What's the general spirit of the rule that the sign couldn't be bigger than, that he has to get a variance, like?
Because there's specific square footage requirements for signs. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when it comes right down to it, the size of the building and the size of the sign, and the required size of the sign, it doesn't necessarily work. It doesn't necessarily work. Mr. Grady, what was the maximum sign? What was the maximum sign size that you could actually put on the
24 square feet.
4 square feet?
I scaled this one, and I did not do it to the Academy sign, but this is the differential between a 24-foot conforming sign.
24 foot, that's 6 by 4, correct?
24, yeah.
Yeah,
24
that's less
square
than,
foot.
that's less than the size of a sheet of plywood. On the size, on the fascia of a building that, what did you say? It was like 11,000?
11,000 square feet and change.
Yeah. And that's what the bylaw says has to go on there.
To put it in context, my living room rug, is the size of that sign. So it's like, so if you think of like an 8 by 10 rug of some kind, like that's how big that entire sign is.
All right, I don't know if I believe Mr. Haynes. I think a site meeting is appropriate. Let's go to Tim's house.
Actually 88, it's 8 by 11.
So that's, Mr. Galley, if that answers the question, I hope that answers the question. It's just, that's what the requirement is. And that's why the applicant is requesting this, because
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, like I said, 24 square feet is less than the size of a sheet of plywood.
Yeah.
And then when you put that on the face of the building, I can understand why the academy and why the arena want to do something a little bit different. So.
Mr. Chairman, that's why the building inspector also had to deny the building permit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing that I wanted to get to on both of these, because they both put in as a, they both put in for an appeal to the building inspector. I had them do that because he did come out and say that, yeah, it wasn't going to work. So in the end, when we have to deal with findings and stuff like that, that's probably going to be one thing that we have to look at and potentially just, I don't know how to do it. I don't know if it's deny as moot or whatever it is. Tony will walk us through that, but that's why that portion went into both applications.
Yeah, the
Anything else,
process,
Mr. Baker? Mr. Baker Senior, anything else you want to talk about?
Not at this time.
Thank you for adding that. Mr. Grady, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt.
yeah, no problem. I'm sorry I interrupted. The process is to submit and get denied. So before we prepared all of this paperwork, we wanted to make sure we covered both avenues, depending on how the the board saw fit. Because you could go either way at these applications. So we prepared the variance. We think it meets the merits of the variance, and we're really focused on obtaining the variance request, because we do think it meets the spirit of the variance allowance. It does not have negative impacts to the the traveled roadway, the general public, the abutters. And we think it fits the buildings. Again, we think it fits the buildings architecturally and visually, so you can actually see the sign. It's not a distraction from a traveled roadway. It's an arrival sign. You've arrived. You can see it on the building, and that's the purpose of this. So I did discuss the unique circumstances involving the sign. The signs on both of these. Basically, because of the size of the buildings, a 24 square foot sign doesn't look right. It's not readable from the entrances. It wouldn't be readable, and therefore it would be kind of useless to put a tiny sign on there. The other unique circumstances that you can't see it from any of the travel roadways. And then also the third unique circumstance I put in here is that they're set back significantly. The board needs to find 4 statutory findings in order to grant the variances, and I can go over those real quickly here. We've discussed these at previous meetings. It is a unique lot. So the first finding is that circumstances relating to the soil condition, shape, or topography, which especially affect the land or structure in question, but which do not generally affect the zoning district in which the land or structure is located. This site is an industrial zone, and it also has frontage on a residential zone. There's significant wetlands throughout the property. It's an extremely odd-shaped lot. A large portion of the property has a conservation restriction on it that the woodlands will never be developed. And the topography changes from elevation 168 out at the street down to about elevation 140. So it's got a 28-foot elevation drop. The second finding is that due to these circumstances, especially affecting the land or structure, literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. Literal enforcement of the 24 square foot wall sign would create it would create a sign that you can't read. It could be potentially dangerous if somebody's trying to read that sign and they take their eyes off of the entranceway for too long when they realize that they're not looking they're looking for the sign too long. A larger sign will allow for operators to locate the sign and confirm that they've made it to their destination. Literal enforcement of this provision would pose a substantial hardship, financial hardship, as the value of the property would be diminished. 3, the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. Relief would not be a detriment to the public good, as I discussed earlier. The sign will not be visible from abutting roadways. It's located at significant distance from abutting residences. The site is surrounded by woodland. One of the signs is not lit at all. The Level Academy, the Level Arena sign, the letters are lit, but they will meet the requirements of that portion, will meet the requirements of the zoning bylaws. So that's not necessarily part of the variance request that we're asking for here. Number 4, the desired relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. The intent of the bylaw is to protect the town and abutters from injurious, noxious, offensive, or detrimental impacts to the neighborhood. The sign is designed is located to face away from abutters. It's not visible from abutting roadways, and the signs cover the sign on the Level Arena covers less than 1% of the front of the building. On the Academy, it's about 2.5% it covers. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Going back to the board members that didn't have any questions before. Do you have any questions now? Mr. Tanzi,
No, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yeah, if I could ask Mr. Grady, your explanations on how we can, or how the application can satisfy the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th requirements seem pretty straightforward. Could you just go over what the requirement is, number 1, that you had cited earlier? I heard the first part of what you said, but I didn't hear the rest of it.
Sure, relating to the, so the finding number 1 relates to the circumstances of the lot itself, the soil conditions, the shape, the topography. And this site has, a few unique factors. Again, it's industrial zoned. I can, let me flip to this. The zone line bisects the property about here. There is frontage on Bill Delahunt. This is industrial zone, industrial access here. This side portion of the property is in the residential zone. They do have frontage out in approximately this area here. We weren't able to use that frontage to access the industrial use through a residential use. The site has significant wetlands associated with it. I showed you previously, but basically there's wetlands all through here. Excuse me, the entire rear of the property is a wetland. It's actually a river out here associated with that. The lot shape, which you can't quite see here, but basically it comes down over here and out in this direction, and then comes back around here and has some odd shapes here. And then the topography. The site slopes from approximately elevation 168 here to 140 here. Again, this topography will help make it difficult to see the sign in this location.
Okay, thank you. So would my understanding be correct then if I said that what we would essentially have to find were we to grant the application is that such things as the soil, the lot shape, and the topography are the cause of the dilemma in which you find yourself now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I have nothing else.
Mr. Jr., I appreciate that. Mr. Galley, we went through. Do you have any additional questions? I know that some other things
No.
come up, so.
No, thank you.
Nicole,
No further questions.
still no questions.
Still no questions.
Nicole, do you like hockey?
I am impartial to hockey.
Mr.
I went
Haynes?
to
Oh my
I
God.
went to hockey school though.
Oh, okay, well, so you can appreciate.
Yes.
Nice. Mr. Haynes, I'm coming up to you, sir.
well, you know my hockey crayons. So, no further questions on
No
that.
further questions. That's fine. And then Mr. Baker Senior, talk to me, sir.
The only question I had is on the diagram of the academy.
Mr. Grady, can you pull that up?
It's showing 120 foot by 120 foot, and they're asking for 100 foot.
So those are inches, so it's 10 by 10. They're probably hard to see. That's 120 inches.
I'm sorry.
120 inches or 10 feet.
Yeah.
10 by 10 would be 100.
Yes. I'm sorry. That's all I had.
Sounds good. I'm gonna open this up to the public. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak in favor of this application? And actually, Kevin, can you take that,
Sure.
the thing down just so I can see who I
Yep,
got here?
sorry, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, nobody wants to speak in favor. Does anybody want to speak opposed to this project? This portion of the project? For hearing none.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Russ Warner from 380 Forest Street.
Hi, Mr. Corner. Can you turn your camera on, please? So we can see who we're talking to.
I'm going to have to try to figure that out. Camera on. Here, hold on. Oh. Camera. Is it on now?
Nope.
Camera. No. I'm having trouble. Why won't it do that?
Are you down here?
Is the camera laying down
There you go.
No, it's,
the laptop?
It's not activated.
yeah, it's not. I'm trying to get it on. Give me a minute. This is the first time I've used this one.
Upper right-hand corner of your screen, your little portion of the screen, there's 3 buttons in there. Anything in there unhighlighted? Could be something in there that says stop video or put video on or something like that.
Yeah, I'm working. Up.
You have to understand that it's unfair to the board and it's unfair to the
Sure.
applicant. not see who we're
I-
talking to.
I totally understand.
Could try an iPhone.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, but yeah. Why is it not coming up?
Yeah, no.
Not now?
No.
Where is it? Video settings. How's that?
You would see it on your screen if it came up.
I can see it on mine, but it's not going to you.
Share screen.
If that does anything for you.
And it looks like there's some light on it. Do you have a piece of tape over it?
No?
His
There it is.
name's coming up, so it's
Is
like.
it on now?
What did I see?
Do you happen to have like a little cover on your camera? That might be
There
it.
it is. Hold on.
Some
How's
There
that?
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I just wanted to speak to a few things that Mr. Grady outlined and stuff as far as the reasons for granting the variance. One thing is that I don't see a problem with them being able to have the sign that's allowed by the bylaw. But he referenced the conditions under 415-89.1. There's 5 conditions that the board has to, or the applicant has to meet to be able to be granted a variance. Number 1, he says the soil conditions.
Sir,
I don't
when you turn your face away,
Oh,
you
I'm
can't
sorry.
hear you.
Okay, I'm
Just so,
sorry.
just so you know.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So the soil conditions, I don't see where the soil conditions affect the size of the wall sign. That's 1. Number 2, he alluded to the allowable sign being too small and being potentially dangerous from people coming in through the driveway. It's a 1,200-foot long driveway. When those people get down that driveway, you can see that arena pretty clearly. I don't think that's an issue. The other one, as far as the sign not being able to be seen from the residence, our residence is on the rear of Forest Street. It's one of the ones that he has outlined in the plan. There's 4 residences here, 370, 372, 380, and 382. I can see the arena from my backyard and from my rear windows. I can see the sign where the sign's gonna go. So it is visible to the residents. And then the sign's also talking about internal lighting on it. Currently, the arena has the lighting on it almost 24 hours a day, all night long. If I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, the lights are on over there. So the internal lighting, I think, would be something that should definitely not be on the sign. And I appreciate your consideration on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corner. Can I ask you a question, sir?
You absolutely can.
Have you made any complaints to the building department about this?
I have actually sent a letter about the headlights from the parking lot to the building department. The building inspector's been working on it. I've been in contact with the project manager over there, Herbie, who's building the building. They're all working on putting up fencing or something that was part of the zoning board conditions of approval earlier and stuff. So they're working on it. And I'll tell you, I'm very pleased with the project. They've done a nice job over there. Things look great. It's a real good addition to the town. But, you know, there are some things that have to be worked through. One is granting this variance, I think, is a detriment to the residents. And also a couple other issues is that they have a turtle crossing over there.
Has nothing to do with this application, sir. Can't talk about it.
But you asked if I had made any complaints or brought up any issues.
Yes, but now you're bringing up issues that you haven't talked to anybody about.
That's fine.
And this is not the forum for that, sir. I apologize.
Absolutely, I apologize.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak in opposition to this? All right, hearing none, I'm going to Mr. Rubel. Tom, you got your ears on, sir? There he is.
Yeah,
Good evening, sir. How you doing?
not too bad.
You got any questions for the applicant?
No, I would just like to refresh your memory a little bit, Mr. Chairman. Longwater Drive, Kemco. We had the same issue a few years back, probably 10, 12 years, with a sign that was in off the beaten path down by Longwater Drive.
Mm-hmm.
We did give them the okay on that sign.
Okay. And that way, and one of the reasons was it was so far
Yeah.
away that okay. No, that makes sense. I appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing that back up. Anything else you want to talk about, sir?
Nope, and for the fence, I had told her to talk to the complaint and told him that I will get on that as soon as all the leaves fall off the trees, so we don't have to do this more than once.
There we go. That's really good. I like that. The only other thing that Mr. Corner brought up was the lighting. It seems to be on way too long, I guess. Have you heard anything about that? Has anybody said anything to you about that?
No.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Mr. Grady, do you want to, do you got anything else you want to talk about tonight, sir?
I am all set. Thank you.
All right, board members, I would entertain a motion to,
Could I ask Mr. Grady a quick question before you go?
absolutely, please.
Just in relation to this last comment, when I looked at the sign information, it looks to me like the only part of the sign that's lit are the letters. So could you just sort of talk about the illumination at the arena sign, like what is actually being lit and how it's being lit?
Sure, I do have some data on that
Feel free to share the screen if you need to, sir.
As I understand it, we have the sign bylaw has time constraints on it, but there's no constraints on whether somebody has lights on inside their building or not.
Correct. So the simulated illumination here that you can see is just lighting the lettering. It's lower foot candles than the parking lot lighting. It's not going to shine over and above what the parking lot is already doing, and it will be turned on and off with the parking lot lights, and also it will meet the requirements of the bylaw for illumination, which talks about 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. So it'll definitely be shut off outside of those hours.
So this is the white letters are being lit from behind, not a spotlight, sort of lighting up the front of the building, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
when I looked at this, it looked to me like the level arena, the part that's being lit, it's probably less than 20. It looked like it was less than 24 square feet. It was very close to being 24 square feet, just the letters. So it was about 30 inches high, and I couldn't quite tell what it was in the width, but it looked reasonably
Less than 175 inches.
Yeah.
Probably 20 inches less. There's probably 150 inches ballpark.
So, so what we're really approving is just the logo, the unlit logo behind, what is otherwise not a particularly large sign.
Right. And the variance is geared toward the square footage, not necessarily the illumination. I realize the illumination gets larger with the square footage, but the illumination does meet the requirements of the bylaw.
And good eyes, Mr. Haynes.
I just wanted to make sure that was what I understood. It's it's one of the potential issues with the abutters. Great, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Again, good eyes. Anybody else, board members, are we good? I would entertain a motion to close the open portion of the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Need a second?
Second,
I got a second. Roll call. Myself is a yes. Mr. Tanzi,
yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Rob,
Yeah, whoa,
you
whoa,
gotta
whoa.
say what you're voting on, which one? There's
Oh.
two.
Okay, do we have to, well, we're not voting yet. We're only closing the public hearing.
On both? Oh, sure, okay, sorry.
You tell me. Let's make sure we're doing this right. Yes?
No, you can close them both at once, but your final vote, just split it up.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. So again, we got roll call. Myself is a yes. Mr. Tanzi
Yes.
is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
and Miss Clement Gomez.
Yes.
Okay, got to do me a favor. Next time, I need the whole name out there because it took me like 3 minutes to remember your last name.
All right, no problem.
You gotta type that whole. We make everybody else do it, so I got to make all my board members do it too. You came in a little late. I made Steve do it too.
Took me a few minutes to figure it out.
All right, so open portion is closed. Let me, I got my thing, my clear, hearing none. All right, Mr. Grady, The board will deliberate tonight and you are welcome to stay. You will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp on the decision, go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. And if no one has appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. You good, sir?
Understood.
All right, we're gonna, let's see, what is the timing for the next hearing? All right, so we got 8 o'clock, we're already 8:30, so we're gonna go to technically number 4. 8 PM, remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, at 8 PM on the application submitted by Llewellyn and Elizabeth Wyman, 161 Central Street, Rockland, Mass, care of Matthew Zepic Esquire, Brent Warren Law LLC, 130 Liberty Street, Suite 10, Rockland, Mass, for a use variance pursuant to zoning bylaws, section 415-22, building and lot regulations, section 415-89.1, zoning variances to allow the applicant to convert a previously approved in-law apartment to the property which is currently being used as a two-family at the present premises known as and numbered 161 Central Street, Rockland, Mass. No new construction or alterations are proposed. The property is located in the R2 Residence Zoning District, section 415-9 of the bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 44, map 55 on the Rockland Assessors Map. The owner of the property is Llewellyn and Elizabeth Wyman, trustees of the Wyman Family Trust of 161 Central Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. That's what we got. So who is here to speak to the applicant?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Matthew Ezepek. I'm here for Llewellyn and Elizabeth Wyman, who are off camera to my left. They are present. So just as mentioned, the application seeks to convert the existing structure from a single family with a attached in-law apartment to a two-family.
Do you have a site plan that you'd like to share, sir?
I do have the as-built plan. That was part.
If you have the current site plan that you supplied to the zoning board, if you want to share that on your screen, that would be helpful.
So I believe, is it being shared, correct?
I see it. Zoning board members, we see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, this as-built plan wasn't designed specifically for this variance, because this was something that came up during an inspection from the town on separate issues, and it was essentially stated that if you wanted to rent to any third parties other than family members, that this had to be brought in order to convert it from the existing use to the two-family. So as you can see, this is essentially what the foundation looks like. The existing dwelling contains a driveway coming off of Central Street, and that
any chance you can zoom into that and maybe use your cursor to kind of point around, because there's not really a lot of information on this, so we really don't know where the apartment is. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so the area that I'm pointing to now, where it's marked driveway, that is the driveway to the attached second.
Did anybody see his cursor?
No.
I don't see where you're pointing or moving anything around. It definitely didn't zoom in.
I zoomed in on it. My cursor's moving around.
Your cursor is up at the top, pointing to the
word plan
PDF.
Yeah, I see that.
Does anybody see my cursor moving? I'm moving. My screen must be frozen or something. I don't know. I'm pointing it directly at where it says driveway, and I've zoomed in.
Something definitely going on your end. All right, board members, are we okay at this point? And it's,
Yep,
I'm having
I'm
a hard
okay.
time.
I've got a copy of the plan.
All right, if everybody's cool,
Yeah.
and everybody can see it, that's fine. Okay, we'll make that work.
Okay, so I apologize for the technical difficulties, but at the plan where it says driveway, it's the only item marked driveway. That's the entrance to the separate unit on at the building. So that first half of where it says existing dwelling, that is the apartment. Essentially, it's a 672 square foot in-law apartment that's been in existence since 1989, when the original variance was approved to make it an in-law apartment. On the other side of the plan, you can see that the property abuts Driscoll Avenue, and there's a second driveway that goes for the parking for the existing main dwelling that is over by that second area coming off Driscoll Street near the built where it says as-built foundation over in that area. So there are separate driveways for the parking for each unit. So this essentially has been used as a two-family for quite some time. As mentioned, there's the separate driveways. There's also complete separate entrances. The in-law apartment has two means of ingress and egress. There's a front door. As you can see on the plan, there's a deck for both the main dwelling and the secondary dwelling. The secondary dwelling has a deck in the back where there's a second door to go to the back door. There's also a basement for the addition for that apartment, where there's a bulkhead for another means of egress in the case of emergency. Other aspects of the apartment, 2 beds, 1 bath, a full kitchen, stove, dishwasher, microwave, refrigerator. It's completely sealed off from the main dwelling. There's no entrance from the inside of the main dwelling to the inside of the secondary dwelling. So again, this has all the indicia of a two-family rather than an in-law. Essentially, this is an R2 zone, so a two-family would be allowed by right. I believe the one area that we need a variance from would be the square footage of the lot. The lot is 42,200 square feet, so it is a pretty substantial size, but I believe the minimum requirement for a two-family by right would be about 64,000, but everything else meets the requirements of the zoning. Again, it's an R2 zone. There's multifamilies up and down the street. In fact, there's a multifamily right next door on the other side of the property across from on the Driscoll Ave side of Mr. and Mrs. Wyman's property. So it certainly meets the nature of the neighborhood. It doesn't interfere with any residents. It's been used in this manner, as mentioned, since 1989. So they're just looking for the use variance to continue that use. As well, it will allow residents of Rockland have a little bit more housing, and where it's scarce, some more affordable rentals in the area. And as far as the Wymans go, I mean, the use right now would be limited to allowing, I guess, family members to reside there, as that's what the accessory dwelling really is used for. Just at this point in time, there's no family members who would need it. They're in good health, so don't have caretakers or anything that would be moving into the property. So otherwise, without this variance, the current existing property, that entire addition, 674 square feet, would largely be rendered useless to the Wymans. It would be potential housing that's going unused. It would be additional square feet on their lot that they're unable to use and would have to pay taxes on. So I do believe there's a substantial hardship without allowance of this variance. And as mentioned in the application, there's no proposal for extending the use other than for a two-family. There's nothing looking to add to the footprint of the building. There's no construction at all that's proposed within this plan. So essentially, it's just allow this house to continue to be used as a two-family.
All right, sir, I appreciate that. I'm going to open that up to the board. And just so we're clear, voting members on this are going to be myself, Mr. Tanzi.
I can take this one, Rob.
You sure you're feeling okay?
Yes.
All right. It would be myself, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Baker Senior, Mr. Haynes, and Mr. Baker. Going to open this up to the board. Mr. Baker Senior, going to you first, sir.
Do you have any pictures of the inside of the house, the apartment, any of that?
Don't have any pictures of the inside available now. Not at the moment.
We have to go on what you're saying is there.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. I would note that, as mentioned, there was the previously allowed variance for this specific use. So it is something that's well known to the zoning board already, as this particular addition was already approved by the board, given it's been quite some time.
What was the year on that original?
That was 1980, 89.
9? Okay.
None of these,
Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say, just so we're clear, I was a junior in high school at that point, so I wasn't even living in Rockland at that point. So when you say it's very clear to the zoning board, it's clear that it was approved. But the thing is that we have to go based on what you say when it comes to what's actually going on inside there. That's typically why we require a floor plan. When it comes right down to it, I'm going to have to ask Mr. Rubel when it comes time, if he's been inside and he's inspected all this. So, you know, we'll base it on what he has to say. But again, this is why the requirement is that these things are, are kind of required. It's up to you guys to build the best case possible. So, so to answer your question, Mr. Baker Senior, there is no floor plan. Got anything else, sir?
that was the biggest one I had.
Rock and roll. Mr. Tanzi, coming to you, sir. Remember, this is a use variance.
Yeah. How many vehicles do you anticipate will be parking here once, if the variance were granted?
Anticipated would be 2. The driveway could hold 4 vehicles, though.
You think with 2 family, you'd only have 2 vehicles?
Oh, I'm sorry. On the driveway to the apartment would be 2 vehicles. So there's a totally separate driveway for the main house. That was the driveway that's on the side of Driscoll Avenue.
On the Driscoll ad. Greg, do you have that plan? Did you get a copy of that plan?
Yeah, I do. I can.
No, it's just if you remember looking at that plan, it's the parking area that's completely within Driscoll Avenue. So they're parking within the public avenue, the public property. Just so we're clear. Based on the drawing that was given to us, that parking area is virtually 100% within Driscoll Avenue, which is labeled as a 40-foot wide public road.
Rob, that parking lot is not there any longer.
Okay, so
When we did Center Ave, the highway,
Yep.
did Driscoll Ave too.
Okay, so what's going on with Driscoll Ave? Is that a fully paved something?
Yeah. Yes.
So where is the parking lot?
That's, the plans aren't showing it.
Okay, so the plan is not up to date. Again, another problem with not providing an updated site plan. So now we need to base this on, because it's not even accurate on Google Earth. So it's not something that we can actually look at and say, oh, okay, well, we know where people are parking, we know what's going on. Again, it's not an updated plan, so we have no idea what's going on here. So Greg, you're gonna have to accept what the applicant's representative is telling you, which I can't figure out where the parking area is.
Okay.
Rob, I'm a little confused about why this is a
Use variance?
or a use variance.
I've been asking that from day one. I've been asking that from
It
day
seems
one.
like he's actually trying to bring the property into compliance with allowed uses in the zone, right? The building might be non-conforming because the lot is small, but it's been there for a long time. So it's probably a pre-existing non-conforming building where they're trying to bring the use from that what used to be needed for a variance, but now into compliance with the bylaw.
This is an R2 zone. You can have a two-family.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
But he doesn't have the area. This is
Right. He doesn't have the area, but the
Shit.
building has existed long enough where it's likely a pre-existing non-conforming building on the lot.
And we're not worried about the building. We're not worried about the building. We're worried about the fact that he's asking.
Building or lot size. I mean, I think we're saying the same thing.
Well, and it's already an approved in-law apartment.
Right.
That's what the special permit was sought for that. We have proof that it was recorded. We have proof that it is an in-law apartment. He wants to turn this into the applicant wants to turn this into a full-fledged two-family where you don't have to have in-laws living in the in-law apartment.
Right.
This is why I'm trying to figure out why this is a use variance.
Yeah,
This is
right.
a dimensional variance.
Right. Well,
how is that not a use variance?
because you're bringing it into compliance with what the bylaw requires now.
Because the use is allowed in the zone. Now look at the first and only use variance that we granted. That was for an automotive dealership in a residential zone based on the fact that it had been there before. There really wasn't much else you could do with it because it is the repair facility, and they've been doing the repair facility, and that was allowed because it was a pre-existing non-conforming. So this is a hard sell as a use variance. That's all I'm saying. It's a very hard sell.
It sounds like it should be a dimensional variance, or you might need a opinion from first before he comes to the zoning board, an opinion from the building inspector that this second building is lawfully non-conforming on the
Well,
lot.
the second building, the second building, as far as I know, that's just a garage. All right. And we haven't even touched on this. I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, I thought the second building was the other
No.
dwelling.
The in-law apartment is in the main dwelling the way that it's supposed to.
Okay.
That's why, again, it's not an update. It's not an updated plan actually showing what's going on. So I can completely and totally understand why anybody.
Sorry, because I heard them say it was separated, so I thought it was just the back building. So
separated in the fact that it's in the same building, but
Yeah,
there is no other entrance to get into that side of the building. So again, like I said, this is the problem with accepting incomplete applications without updated plan work on everything.
Well, then at least it's a dimensional variance, not a use variance.
Which was never advertised.
Well, if this is an existing non-conforming use,
No, it's an existing approved in-law apartment. Everything about this is exactly the way that it's supposed to be and exactly how it was approved.
I understand that. But the conversion to a two-family, my question is, are they grandfathered? I mean,
how can you be grandfathered when you have a special permit?
Well, when was the lot created?
Well, it's yeah. Well, so this is a little complicated, and I don't think there's an easy answer to it. I think I'm kind of saying the same thing where, while two-family is different than in-law, the building itself is a grandfathered structure on the lot.
Tony, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's why they went for the in-law when they did.
No, I know, I get that, but if it's it might be a grandfathered structure, and then they're bringing the use into compliance, even though they had a variance, so it wasn't illegal for the in-law apartment.
They had a special permit.
Perhaps I can shed some light on why I brought the use variance. So it was a variance that was allowed in 1987. It was a variant. It was 87.
89.
It was 87. So there was a variance that was allowed in 1987. So the variance that
Do you have a copy of that variance, sir?
it was, yes,
It's attached.
part of the application.
It's not clear. It was, the variance says it was for 3,000 square feet. So it's not really clear. It sounds like there wasn't enough area, but a variance isn't the same thing as the,
Correct. So the
like a special permit for.
the reason it brought as a use variance was because the existing building has already been approved. So the building itself has been approved. So we're only looking to change the use of the current existing building. So that's why it was brought as a use variance, because we don't need any relief from the board in order to have this existing building. This existing building can remain as it is. The only thing we're looking to change is the use of this building. We're not looking to expand. We're not looking to take items off or change the foundation or anything like that. We're strictly looking to change the current existing structure from a single family as an in-law to a two-family. So I mean, I guess.
Wouldn't that be bringing? So that wouldn't be I don't think it'd be a use variance, because you're bringing the use into compliance with the bylaw, so you don't need a variance, right?
I just keep wanting to interject. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the thing is, it's an in-law apartment is a single family house. And so when it ceases to be an in-law apartment, it's supposed to be converted back to a single family house. And so we want to skip that step. And so when I look at the zoning, and sort of maybe a way to sort of quickly get to the answer is that we have in our zoning bylaw the means of converting a single family house to a two-family house. And the requirements, it has to meet all of the zoning requirements. You have to put in a site plan, and there's specific requirements. The apartment has to be at least 650 square feet. So you'll probably meet all of these requirements to convert a single family house to a two-family house if you submit, and you can do it by right if you submit it with a site plan to the building inspector, but you don't meet the requirements to have a two-family house. So you'll need some dimensional variances. It's really, I think it's that straightforward. If you just look at, it's a 41591 in my zoning book, but it's.
Rob, could we ask Tom one last time? Because
let's talk to, you want to talk to attorney, to Mr. Rubel?
Tom Rubel.
Tom Rubel, are you kicking around, sir?
Go ahead.
Mr. Baker Senior has a question for you, sir.
Go ahead.
Tom, when was the last time that in-law apartment was used and sent isn't there a form they have to fill out every year saying who is living in that?
I would have to check with John to see if that was up to date, because they were never done prior. And we may not even known of this until we've had the complaint from the tenant that was living in there. I had some other issues down there when they were living in there, and found out that they weren't related or blood related. I can't answer that though, Bob, but I will say that we do need a dimensional variance where the square footage is off that much. You need roughly 64 and you only have the 42. And that's a single family home being converted into a two-family. I can do it by right if they meet all the bylaws, but they don't. So that's why I didn't do it.
So it's
We all
just
keep
dimensional
saying the
lot
same
size.
thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony, I'm sorry.
No. So Tom, it's just the dimensional variance on the lot size.
That's right.
And if they get the dimensional variance on the lot size, then they can change the use by right.
If they get that.
If they meet the other, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it seems like about 8 months ago, there was a there's a vacant lot and it was undersized. It was, it predated zoning, but it was in an R2. It was an undersized lot. It was vacant, and a two-family dwelling was allowed by right through grandfathering. And they originally went through this, variance, use variance, oh, maybe, no, it's really a dimensional variance. And then it went back and we found that it was grandfathered. I don't know if that's what the difference is here. I don't think just because somebody went for a special permit, in this case, it's an in-law apartment, I don't think that really changes the fact that this is apparently a existing non-conforming structure. Kind of like what we approved eight months ago or something. I forget. So I'm a little bit, I don't know. It seems like we might be being a little bit inconsistent with that decision. I don't think the
Comes
fact
down
that they
to
got a
if that's the
special permit.
case.
What's
If
that?
if that is the case, and I hear what you're saying, I hear exactly what you're saying. This was that thing for on Manzilla Court. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, one of those roads back there. Yeah,
I remember. I know what you're talking about. I know. I heard about that. So the deal with that was it was a pre-existing non-conforming lot that was built prior. That was not built. That was created prior to the bylaw that required the 32,670 square feet per unit. All right, that's why. So the question here is, when was this lot created? And I go to it says Zepic, correct? Attorney is Zepic?
Correct, yes.
I go to you on that one, sir. When was this lot created? Not the house, but the lot itself.
The lot, the house was created.
I don't care about the house. I care about the lot.
I don't think that's going to help because even at the time whenever the lot was created, and then the building was built on it, you're still because it was an in-law, it was a conforming lot. But by bringing it's a strange situation that by bringing the use into compliance, you're creating a nonconformity with the lot size. So at the time, a grandfathered lot wouldn't help you because in the past, it's still even today considered a single family house.
Right.
So you're creating a nonconformity by bringing the use into compliance, which is certainly a hardship. I'm not arguing against the application. It's kind of it's kind of like a rock and a hard place type situation. But I don't think thinking about it now, the way you just put it, this is a single family house with an in-law apartment. So you're not going to get any help from grandfathering when you need more square footage for a two-family because it wasn't a two-family in the past.
Right.
Just a paragraph of 11 of the application did seek a variance from the lot size for multifamily dwelling. So it did seek that variance from the lot size requirement for
where was this, sir? Just so we're clear.
Paragraph 11 of the application.
Current application.
Current application, yes.
Right.
So there was an original application, and then there was a request to supplement it. So I'm not sure what you're looking at or if it's the right one, but paragraph 11 did add the lot size for multifamily as in what was being sought.
Tom, what besides the lot size, what particulars about the two-family do we know or not know that they comply with? Do you know that?
There was an issue with detectors, the electrical inspectors, I believe, got everything all straightened out with the basement down there. Other than that, I had issues on the as-built for the foundation on the garage, but that's something else. That has nothing to do with the house. The only issue I had was the square footage on the lot being 20,000.
Okay, so let's say, so if the applicant requested the variance for the lot size, and if the board were to grant it, do they need to do anything else other than just ask for a permit because of the two-family is by right?
Yeah, if they
Would that be
get
acceptable
variance,
to you, that it's okay?
yeah, if they get that big of a variance, 20,000 feet, yeah.
But wouldn't that apartment now have to have a separate bathroom and all of that, Tom?
It does. It used to
It
be
already
an
has
in-law-
one?
It used to be an in-law apartment. The only thing that I think they had to do was when the in-law apartment, you had to get from one end of the house to the other end of the house without going out. So they had to put some kind of blockage on that doorway, so they have two separate units in there. Other than that, they're all set for two.
So it's other than the square footage.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And again, I was looking at the current application. Right there. The current application, the application that I've got emailed right now says application for a use variance. That's it. And again, pretty sure I read this, appeals do Brockton use for a use variance. And everything's requiring a use variance. And I would have no problem, if this was advertised correctly, I would have no problem hearing a dimensional variance, but right now, we're looking at a use variance. So if by the bylaw, Attorney Zepic, if by the bylaw, you can show us how this meets and how this works with a use variance, we're more than happy to hear you. But there are
Dimensional variance.
no, not dimensional variance, because we're not hearing a dimensional variance. We're hearing a use variance. That's what
Well,
the
the
application
point-
was.
Yeah. No. But the point is that it doesn't matter, because if you were to give him a use variance, he still needs a dimensional variance before he could get a certificate of occupancy.
This is where I'm going.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know how to work with this, because the use variance, and I've been saying this from day one, the use variance is not the way to go with this one. So I don't know how to deal. I don't know how to work with this, guys.
I mean, again, I would just point out to paragraph 11 that it said right on there that it was looking for relief from the lot size for a multifamily. So
Regardless of paragraph 11, who filled out the application?
yep, I filled out the application.
You only checked off application for use variance.
And a multifamily is more than two family. Multifamily is three
The one
family.
I says it too, but it barely says it. Very small magnified writing.
Yeah, and it feels like there's a defect in the application. So it's again.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Baker Jr., sir.
A procedural question.
Yes, sir.
Would the applicant, given what the application is asking for versus what the applicant would appear to need, is the applicant able to withdraw his application and submit it sometime in the future what was actually needed to achieve their goals?
That would probably be the best bet at this point.
Yes, because everything would have to be renoticed with the proper relief sought.
Because it would be either that, or we'd have to close the public hearing. We'd have to go into deliberation. We'd have to decide on whether the use variance was applicable or not. We'd have to vote on it. And if we did so choose to not grant the use variance, we could vote to do that. What am I looking for? Without prejudice. So they could come back immediately. So there are ways that we could make this work and get the applicant in as soon as humanly possible. But on the flip side, there are certain pieces to the application that would need to be satisfied. There would need to be a site plan. There would need to be, an updated site plan showing the correct information, but that's stuff that we talk about later. So I don't know. I'm going back to Attorney Zepic to figure out what you want to do, sir. He's discussing with the client at this point.
Rob, there are two applications for this.
Where's
One
that?
is August 22nd, 22, and September 28th, 22. First one does not say anything about the dimensional area. The second one does.
Which one's where's the second one? Oh, there's no one here. Still says application for use variance. And again, lot size for
But number 11 is filled out.
and that's fine. I can see that. I understand that, but it's still, I hereby apply for
I know.
a public hearing before the zoning board for the following. Application for a use variance.
And based on that, that's what was advertised.
And that's what was advertised. And that's the only thing that we can go by.
And then, yeah, I guess we'll, unless we can continue it and it can be republished noting the dimensional variance.
How you doing with it, Tony? I don't know if that can happen.
Because that's the only
Still
change.
dealing with the same application.
I mean, it's
I'd
still.
rather see him withdraw.
I mean, either way, you'd still, whether you did that or just applied for another application, it still needs like notice.
Notice.
Not just publication, like the abutter notices have to go back out.
Yep.
So.
That would also give us the opportunity to look at the required supporting documentation too.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing. So
And I'm not criticizing one way or another, but now that we know what they need, then they can just address what they need.
Right.
However they're doing it.
Right.
I'd rather see him withdraw and refile a whole new one so we don't have to deal with what we got here tonight.
Yeah, I would throw, and honestly, my gut feeling is we throw it. And no, I'm not saying nothing. Mr. Zepic, what would you and your client like to do, Tom?
I guess we'll withdraw it and we'll resubmit it.
All right. Do we have to note that we're allowing him to withdraw without prejudice? We are gonna have to vote on this, correct? Tony, sorry.
You don't have to vote if they can just withdraw.
All right, he's withdrawing.
It would be helpful just to send in like a 1 or 2 sentence letter, just so it can be in the file that they withdrew it. But you know.
Okay. All right.
Without prejudice.
Yeah, well, he can't say that.
They're allowed to withdraw and reapply. There's no prejudice that it's
We'd have to say that.
Yeah, no, we're done. If Mr. Zepic, if you'd like to withdraw, we'll accept that withdrawal today. But it would be nice if you could coordinate with Deb Shuttlesworth with just a quick letter that says, respectfully, your client would like to withdraw, and we will reply. And we will reapply. Just some sort of just communication, just so we can just kind of put this end of it to bed, and then work with what's coming next.
I can do that.
All right, perfect, sir. All right, so that takes care of meeting number 4 at this point, as far as I can see. Tony, do we have to do anything else before we close the open portion of the public hearing and stuff like that? I mean, because again, the applicant withdrew, so we're good at this point.
Yeah, just close it. You don't have to just vote to close it and then do whatever you're going to do after that.
I would entertain a second.
Second.
I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Junior?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Done. All right. So that's all taken care of. The only thing that we have to do is we have to vote on the other two, the Bill Delahunt Parkway, and the billboard. I would make a motion to take a 5-minute break. Is everybody cool with that? Yes?
Yes.
Done. See you back in 5 minutes.
You feel all right staying up?
Hmm?
Feel all right?
Yeah. That's better sitting in the seat.
Mhm. You know something? This freezer is colder. Keeps colder than that one.
This one?
Mhm. But I hate when it's so hot that you can't even.
Oh, look at that. Nicole changed her name. Oh, nice. Did she log back out and then log back in or?
Yeah.
No, I'm here. I can
Thank
change
you.
it.
No, thank you for changing that. That's cool.
Yeah, you can change it while you're still in the meeting.
Oh, mid-meeting you can? I thought you actually had to log back out and then log back in. Oh,
No,
that's
if you go to participants and then click your name, you can rename.
rock and roll. All right, give Mr. Baker Jr. a second to get back in here and we'll
All right.
start talking here. Oh, there is. All right, everybody's back. All right, people, where do you want to start? We got to start with close this. Let's start with the billboard. All right, what's the flavor? What's the flavor of the board? Anybody want to talk? Anybody want to hear anything? Anybody want to?
I'm in favor of making those simple changes and moving on.
Rock and roll.
I have no moral or ethical objections.
Rock and roll. That's 2. What else we got?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. We're fine with
that.
Tim's suggestion, I should say.
Okay. Everybody, who was voting on this one? Everybody had, it was Mr. Baker Senior. We bumped him and we gave Mr. Galley. So Mr. Galley's good.
Yep.
Tim's good. Mr. Baker Jr., you're good. I have no objections. Mr. Tanzi.
I'm fine.
All right. Shall we consider that a vote?
Do we need to make a motion of some
I
sort?
I would like to say I would like to hear a motion. Mr. Haynes, can I so eloquently, sir? Can you make a motion, sir?
I gotta find all the stuff that we're doing. So let's say what it's like. Well, run down what we know. Let's see.
There it is, right there.
So let's say we are looking to. You're with me. Let's see. So in generally speaking, we're going to change condition number 7,
right?
And from 8 seconds to every 10 seconds.
Got it.
And we're clarifying conditions number 2 and 3 that the approved plan satisfy these conditions. So I'm going to make the motion that we approve with the changes to condition number 7. Changing the time from every 8 seconds to every 10 seconds, and that we rephrase our approvals number 2 and 3 to make those findings that the approved plan satisfy those conditions.
Can I make a suggestion to that motion, or an amendment to that motion? When it comes to as written conditions number 1 through 3, if we pull out 1 through 3 and consider those or rename those findings of the board, and then renumber the conditions starting at 4, started to start at 1, and then renumber all the rest of the conditions as such.
Sure. So we're going to include 1, 2. You want to include 1, 2, 3, and 4.
No, just 1, 2, and 3, because what I'm
1,
saying,
2,
I
and
just
3.
look at 1, it says the site is an appropriate location, right off the bat, that sounds to me like a finding. It sounds to me like 1 through 3 are actually findings, and condition number 4 should be technically condition number 1, and then everything should be knocked down from there. So that's the only thing that I would look at.
All right. So our motion is, again, speaking generally, our motion is going to be that we change condition number 7, and the reference in finding that the changes are from every 8 seconds to every 10 seconds, and that we change the conditions so that conditions number 1, 2, and 3 are findings that the approved plans satisfy, that we find those findings, and renumber the conditions starting with number 4 as number 1.
Yeah, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. One last thing. Attorney Guard, without saying a word, does that work? Is he frozen? Oh, there we go. Attorney Guard, without saying a word, because you can't say anything. Does that work for you? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I got a motion. I got a second. Any other discussion? Need a roll call vote. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Rock and roll. Deb, you know what we got to do? All right, that's number 1. All set, Attorney Guard. We'll talk to you in the next go around, sir. Thank you. All right, so that takes care of that one. Next one is the billboard. All right, this is a big one. Let's board members, who wants to talk about this one? And I think Nicole, you're on this one, aren't you?
Mhm.
So let's talk, Nicole. What do you think here?
I definitely think that it makes sense for the bigger sign. I'm just concerned about like the neighbors. They did say that they could see from their backyards. So I know they were saying it was just the actual building. But I'm just concerned about the sign. So
Thank you. And just so, and not that it matters, but is it a miss or is it a misses?
No, miss.
It's a miss?
Yeah, it's a miss.
Okay, because I refer to everybody by, I try to by miss, so it's Mr. So just so we're clear, it's Miss Clement Gomez.
Yes, that is correct.
Rock and roll. I'll make sure that I will make sure I say that from henceforth.
I have a question.
I see Deb. Yep. What do you got?
So are you deliberating on 80 or 120 or both?
I think we can deliberate on all of it at the same time, but when it comes right down to it, it has to be a separate vote and separate decisions.
Okay.
So again, Miss Clement Gomez, hearing what I just said about separate this, that, and the other thing, are you still cool with it? Just other than the fact that on the level of, not the level academy, but on the other one, you're concerned that the neighbors are going to see it, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's all understood.
Yeah, no problems with the academy.
All right. Anybody else? What do we want to talk about? Who's say something?
Mr. Chairman.
No, Greg. He started out. He vocalized. He jumped in here. He's
I'm sorry.
No, it's
Greg.
cool. No, Greg was the one that was being rude. He's the one who just jumped up and just started talking. He didn't raise his hand or anything like that. He never graduated kindergarten. It's cool. I understand.
I yield to the vice chair.
Mr. Tanzi, talk to me, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Baker. I'd just like to say, I mean, we have granted some variances on other large scale buildings. Across from the Upper Baby place, I forget the name of it, but it was more of an aesthetic value. It really wasn't something like a fast food chain restaurant sign where you stick it out over into the right of way to net as many people. I think Mr. Grady did a pretty good job of explaining the variance criteria. The soils, topography, those conservation restrictions areas and resource areas, they force the parking to be in front of that building, and that there's a lot of parking space away. Somebody coming in and turning into that facility, I think it's a public benefit that they know whether or not they're in the right parking lot or not. If the sooner they figure that out, the sooner they can turn around and get out of there, rather than causing congestion and confusion up in front of the building. I think aesthetically it's a plus, and like what Mr. Haynes had brought to light, the part that's actually lit is considerably smaller than the whole sign as a whole. We can put controls on it. Maybe we have the lights up near the building dimmed, and lights farther away from the building can shut off at a reasonable hour. I don't know if we can do that, but the sign we have control over the sign going on and off. I mean, it doesn't have to be lit up till at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's my thoughts. The other sign is pretty much the same thing. It's a 10 by 10 sign on a very big building. Again, somebody getting confused won't confuse that with the skating rink. I mean, the scale of the building could initially, do the same, and that sign isn't even going to be lit. So I don't see this as being inconsistent with what the board has approved in the past.
Deb, can I ask you a question? You might know this, and if not, I might be able to just look this up online. Do you know what the hours of operation of that building are, the skating rink?
The hours of the building itself?
Yeah, the hours of operation.
No.
Let me just.
I believe it's 24/7.
No.
It might be.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they
I know
they'll get people who will go there at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning.
We're developing world-class hockey players here.
The one on VFW was packed at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
It's like it's back in the 80s again.
Yeah, I know. And again, I was a hockey player when I was a kid. I mean, I remember, I remember getting out of there early when I was a kid, but going into college, playing after college with men's leagues and stuff. I know we were at who was it?
Pilgrim?
Yeah, Pilgrim over in Hingham. I went to Pilgrim at like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I skated there at 12 o'clock and got out at 1 when I was young.
I got a couple of nephews that play at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I can understand why. I can kind of understand why the lights are on, and again, the that abutter said that the lights are on 24/7. So, I mean, 24/7. I can't believe that, but I mean, definitely once dusk hits, I can see why the lights would be on all night if people are coming in and doing their thing. Just trying to find actual like hours. I'm on their website. I'm just trying to see if I can find something that talks about hours and stuff like that. Skills, leagues, tournaments, photos. Staff, alumni, programs, winter club, Level Academy, CC Nights, Boston Advantage, post, Yeah, it doesn't say.
They were running on generators while they were waiting for Edison to bring the power in.
Really?
And games over there.
Okay.
And they
Well,
had 24/7 fire
Hello?
protection.
Hello, I'm actually the rep for the owner. My name is Dan Russell. I've been on the call the whole time.
I appreciate that, sir, but we've already closed the open portion. of the
Okay,
meeting.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
just want to clarify. I just want to put,
I've seen you on the call and I didn't know who you were. If you had something to say, it would have, you should have been.
no, I was just going to clarify the hours. I know the hours if you.
That's fine. I mean, we're going to deal with it at this point. Deb, what do you got?
Condition number 3 says the hours of operation will be 5 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week.
Okay, so that was our approval.
That was the condition for the recreational facility, yeah.
That opens up a whole nother can of worms that I don't know if I want to talk about right now. Everybody hear what I'm picking? Is everybody picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah. Well,
All right, I don't want to talk about that. So let's look at it this way. If our approval said that, then I think we gotta kind of live with that. If that's what we conditioned in the beginning, I don't see how we can go against that. If somebody wants to speak in opposition to what I'm saying, talk to me.
No, I agree. I mean, but you know, I mean, the sign could come off at, beyond during hours of operation. Is that what you're getting at?
Sign can't be on past 11.
That's what I'm saying. It comes down to what we looked at when we when we had to give special approval for this. We said that in our conditions, the hours of operation were, say that again, Deb?
5 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week.
How can we condition it? How can we condition that the sign can be on 24 hours a day? Or dusk to, you know what I mean?
The sign can't be on. Our bylaw is specific about the time the sign has to be off.
Okay. Well, then we can go ahead, then we can condition it as such. I mean, that's just following the bylaw. That really isn't even a condition. We have to say that the lighted sign hours have to comply to the bylaw.
And the person who presented said that will be the case. Kevin? Kevin?
Yep, Kevin Grady.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if the hours of operation are supposed to be to 5 to 12, it seems like from what I've heard in this conversation that the arena is open 24 hours.
Can of worms. Hear what I'm saying? Can of worms.
Okay.
Talk about it. Can of worms. Can of worms.
The issue is not before the board.
Thank you, Tony. That's another way of saying it. So let's leave
It's a matter for the zoning enforcement officer.
Exactly. So let's look at it this way. First and foremost,
Rob,
yes.
In the industrial zone, illuminated signs have to be off between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Okay, done.
But they wanted more, they needed to ask for a variance.
Which they never did.
Right.
And as Mr. Haynes said, Mr. Grady presented as such that's what it was going to be. So I'm not worried about that. It's really it's the dimensional variance that's required to get that size of a sign on both of the buildings. So far, the only thing that we're worried about at this point is it sounds like, and maybe I'm paraphrasing, but it sounds like the only thing that's even a little bit of a waiver is the sign that's on the rink. And it's more because it's a lighted sign. But on the flip side, we're looking at it from the perspective of it's got to be off at 11 anyway. So everybody happy with that? Anybody want to speak? Anybody want to talk opposition? So we've got two motions that we have to make. We have findings that we have to find.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I could just get into what I was going to say before, but
That's
actually,
I'm sorry, I totally
no, actually, I'm very glad that Mr. Tanzi spoke first because he helped me out of my dilemma.
Okay.
And you may recall when I talked to Mr. Grady about the criteria for the findings that we'd need to make, I indicated I had no problem with requirements 2, 3, and 4. My hangup was on how the topography, the soil, or the lot shape, essentially, as I said to him, put him in the dilemma he's in now. But Mr. Tanzi clarified that for me in his first couple of sentences, so
perfect.
I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, let's talk. Which one did I read first? It was the Academy, I think. It was the Academy that I read first.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk. Level Academy then. This is the requirement of. Did he give us a square footage?
10 by 10.
He wanted 10 by 10, and what's the maximum?
24.
24. Before I get the calculator up, can somebody tell me?
76.
Or is 76. So we're looking for a 76 square foot variance for the size of the sign. So do we want to talk findings first, or we want to do that once we make a decision?
Yeah,
If not,
the findings.
I think we do findings first, and then we based our decision on the findings or the vote
Okay.
on the finding.
So we've talked about the findings when it comes to the soil shape or topography. Does anybody want to? Actually, I'm going to bring it back to Mr. Baker Jr.
Oh, God.
What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to give us an idea on the findings that we have to make, and if you can so eloquently describe the findings and if we found that to be such. I think we're all in agreement thus far, but.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the degree of specificity the findings need to have.
Okay.
I mean, just using a hypothetical, would it be satisfactory to say that the board finds that how would I even phrase this? For lack of a better way, that the lot size, the topography, and or the soil are the cause of, or I should say, the lot size, the soil. Yeah, somebody help me out here with the language. And so much.
So
you have something, Tony?
Restrictions on the lot size.
And by the way, so much for my presumed eloquence, Rob.
Let the practicing attorney that we pay to be here speak.
So you have to give reasons, and you can't just repeat. We hereby find.
Yeah. Okay, that was my question.
Shape, topography, whatever. So you have to give reasons why you find it. If you repeat it, then it's not allowed to repeat it.
Okay. Can you give us an example of what? Can you give us an example of what an appropriate reason would be? Or how it would be phrased.
Talking about the lot shape has to do. This is off the top of my head. I think this is true, but lot shape is you have the driveway and the building is situated where it has to go. Therefore, the building's a certain size because of the shape of the lot, and the sign has to go in a certain place to illuminate the building because it's a long driveway to an oddly shaped lot. I don't know, something like that.
All right, so based on the extraordinary lot line configuration, based on the topographical conditions that exist on the lot, and based on the soil conditions such that the Conservation Commission required a conservation restriction easement where no clearing could happen on, outside of the parking lot or driveway area. Based on these three findings, we feel that a variance of 76 square feet when it comes to the size of the proposed sign is allowable. Yeah, maybe something
Yeah, as appropriate.
appropriate.
I would work something into the fact that it forces the sign to be several hundred feet away from an actual entry point into at the parking facility. And it allows people to identify what building they're going into and where they are, without having to circumnavigate through parking aisles and cause congestion, being confused and dodging pedestrian traffic, little kids getting in and out of cars with hockey gear and blah, blah, blah,
All right, based on everything that we've talked about, do we all agree that the findings are such that, because again, Deb's going to reword all this.
Okay.
All right, she's taken everything that we're saying and she's going to reword it appropriately, that to basically say that we've come up with these findings and these are the findings that we have, and that's why we're granting this variance. Does that work? All right, Deb, you good with this? We'll talk about it later. Perfect. All right, so findings are all good. We're all in agreement. We're all in agreement on the findings. Again, I would look for a motion I'm looking for a motion. Mr.
Well,
Haynes?
just before we get to that point, Mr. Chairman, do we need to supply Deb with some at least framework for findings regarding 2, 3, and 4?
Nope, we're all good at this point.
Okay.
I believe that we're all good at this point, because again, Deb and I go over this. It takes hours to come up with decisions, and it's insanity. She comes back with changes, I come back with changes, and it's a pain, but it always comes out in the end. So we will delineate the findings in good terminology. That's number one. Number two, I think I still have a motion on the floor from Mr. Haynes. I'm looking for a second. Just to be safe, I have a second from Mr. Baker Jr. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
Mr. Haynes.
Yeah.
Miss Clement Gomez.
Yes.
Rock and roll. All right. So that's taken care of. That is the Level Academy. So that's number one. Number two, we're going back to we're going to make a separate decision on the hockey rink. Let me just get it here. This one. Right? No, that's different. That's different. That was the Level Academy. There's the other one. Okay. So next. Anybody want to talk about it?
So I think the circumstances here are the same, and at least in terms of the findings.
Okay.
It is, almost 30 feet below the road grade. It's, there's all this setback. I think in terms of the strict adherence and depriving the applicant of the good use of the property, still it's only fair and safe. There's no detriment. It's actually an improvement and for safety. So I'd make a motion. We approve the sign with the condition that it still meets all the other parts of the sign. This is our only variance. It has to meet all the other requirements of our sign bylaw.
And I appreciate that. Do we? So now I gotta find it. Do we have the dimension? Hold on. Do we have the actual dimensions on this one that they need?
I think it was 80. Was it 85?
88.
Can find that.
I thought it was 88.
That's the size of my living room rug.
All right. So they were looking for an 88, but it's still got to be 24.
85.
85 minus 24. That's 61. So that's a 61 square foot variance. Again, we're saying that the findings are going to be the same. We're going to say that, let me see, Mr. Haynes, we're going to say that that's a motion to approve the 61 square foot variance.
Motion to approve 61 square foot variance.
I need a second. I got a second on Mr. Baker Jr. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yeah.
Miss Clement Gomez.
Yes.
Okay, rock and roll. The only thing that Deb and I are gonna do is just confirm that we've got the right information on both of them. And then from there, we're also gonna state exactly what Mr. Haynes said, that all other, that the only variance that we're granting is the size. It's a dimensional variance on the size. All other requirements of the zoning bylaw must be met. So we're just going to say, that we know that that's what it's supposed to happen. We know that Mr. Rubel is going to make sure of that. But in the grand scheme of things, it would be nice to make sure that we say that in the decision. So we're going to make sure to say that on both of them. Is that it? Are we seriously getting out of here before 10?
We were
My
going to
turn.
discuss, we're going to discuss some hearing dates.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I'm still thinking we're gonna get out of here before 10. All right, there's that. All right, discussion items. Deb, you got the floor.
So there was discussion last week about possibly changing the December 20th scheduled hearing or meeting to December 13th.
I made that. I'm just thinking the 20th is 5 days before Christmas.
I agree. Let's move it up.
Yeah, I got no problem. If we can get rid of it and sooner, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody's happy with that? Do we need a vote on that? I don't think we need a vote on that. Tony, do we need a vote on that?
Sorry, vote on what?
We're changing a date of we're changing the date of an advertise. Has it been advertised yet? It hasn't even been advertised, right?
No.
Yeah, so we're just changing the date of a meeting that we were going to schedule, but we haven't advertised as of yet. Do we need a vote on that?
I don't think so.
Done. No vote necessary. Deb, we're all good with it.
Okay,
Next.
that's really all I have.
Okay.
We might have some additional dates.
Change adding additional dates
Might
if
be-
necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, this might be a good time to just, if anybody has any travel plans or dates that are no good, it might be a good time to just mention it.
You want to go to
I have no life, so it is what it is. Not that zoning is my
This
life.
is your
I have
life.
I have no life, so it does not matter to me. Whatever dates everybody else wants to work with, I am fine with that. So,
As am I, because I would venture to guess that Rob has a fuller life than I do.
yeah, but you have more hair than I do.
Just no meeting on Thanksgiving.
Okay, no meeting on Thanksgiving. We're good there.
We don't do holidays.
No. We don't get
So
paid
just
enough.
one more thing, if you want to think about, which we don't have any right now, but if we get another 40B filing, would you want to hear those on Wednesday nights so that they don't monopolize 50% of the monthly calendar? Because
Or
we're
usually
scheduled-
they'll end up, and a Wednesday night ends up not being on the same nights as planning boards, conservation commissions. So we don't get into that same situation that we got with on Concord Street.
Right.
I hear that. Again, I don't care. I'll make it work no matter what. So if the board if the majority of the board doesn't want to meet on a Wednesday night, and this would only be, I think this should only be specific to 40Bs.
Right.
Any giant project that's really going to monopolize months and months, if not years and years of our lives. So that's why I hear where she's coming from. I think that's a good suggestion. Does anybody, and if you have anything bad to say about it, then don't think that no, I don't want to hear from you, Steve. Talk to me, sir.
I just froze. Okay. Can I say something?
Oh, absolutely. No,
Okay.
please, don't think I'm ever serious. Come on.
Thank you. I would rather add extra Tuesdays than add an extra day of the week. Because it's a lot easier for me to tell the world I can't do something on a Tuesday. Like, it's just so much easier for me to say my Tuesdays are booked. Even if I have half my Tuesdays booked and then half of those free ones become used up, I don't have to worry about telling people that I have to break a plan on a Tuesday and break a.
No, I hear what you're saying.
So that's my first thought.
And again, the biggest reason why we want to go, why Deb wants to go on a different day, and I kind of agree with her, and this is only for 40Bs and big projects that are really going to screw the schedule, is because of that issue we got in on Concord Street. And there was a whole bunch of people that called up saying that, oh, there's a conspiracy. We had, two projects on Concord Street at the same time. And, people wanted to go to both, but yet you had the planning board and the zoning board on the same night. It turned into a big deal in the selectman's office. So that's really the driving force behind it, is basically trying to not be on a night that anybody else has a meeting. Which
Why don't they put zoning board meetings on Wednesdays instead then?
could potentially do that. We're not set to, we don't have to do Tuesdays. For some reason, it's not a charter item. It's not it's not something that we have to worry about. It's something that it's more of a preference to us. So, it's in the grand scheme of things, most every board, commission, committee, everything does meetings on Tuesdays. Why, I don't know.
Because it's actually a really good night to volunteer.
No, and I agree. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. But in the grand scheme of things, I still think it's more out of habit. That's just how, and that's how it's always been. Like I said, it's not a charter item, and it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me what we do. So
how often do we anticipate people accusing us of a conspiracy with multiple meetings on the same night? I mean, how often is that going to happen?
How often are people going to talk?
How often are we going to have meetings that meet? How often we have a meeting that's on a Tuesday when there's another meeting everyone wants to go to on a Tuesday? What's the frequency of that? How many times has that happened in the past?
So you got to look at what meetings are on when we're on. Selectmen meetings are on when we're on Tuesdays, typically on the first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
Planning board is also on a Tuesday, typically on the third Tuesday of every month.
First and third, yeah.
One after us.
See, first and third. So
Usually
there's
after us.
Say again.
Planning board is usually the Tuesday after us. Concom is usually the Tuesday before us.
Okay. So who else is meeting on the Tuesdays, first and third Tuesdays of every month?
Selectmen.
And
I think any others that meet earlier in the day. Not like during the hours that we're meeting.
so again, it's whatever the board wants to do. If you all want to stick to Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesdays of every month, and you don't want to vary from that, no problem.
I don't want to vary from it. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I gotta go to a planning board meeting for my work. And,
Do it. You don't have to justify anything. Nobody has to justify anything to me. Nobody has to justify anything. If you can't do it or don't want to do it, it is what it is.
We're all telling you we hate the idea. We just hate it.
Only issue. And again, this is not my thing, Deb. They're shooting you down. So, in the grand scheme of things, the only thing we've got to look at is statutory time periods when it comes to filings. This is why we try to have every single applicant go through Deb first to make sure that the application is 100% clear and clean before it's actually stamped in with the town clerk. Because the problem is that, and I think everybody knows this, once the town clerk stamps it in, clock starts ticking. So if that's the case, and then all of a sudden, you know, they stamp it in and Deb hasn't gone through everything, and it turns out that, oh, they're missing the abutters list, or, oh, they're missing this, or, oh, the site plan isn't in there, oh, this, that, the other thing, then it turns into a so that's the only thing that we have to watch out for is the statutory recording, statutory time periods that we have to adhere to. So in the grand scheme of things, having extra meetings and stuff like that is going to have to be a thing, but instead it's still going to have to be, in the grand scheme of things, just discussed ahead of time. So if we have to add something, then it's going to be on an emergency basis. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, emergency case by case basis.
Emergency case by case basis, and we'll make that work. Deb, does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just basically the 40Bs where they monopolize like 50% of the calendar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I absolutely agree. But I really don't think that we're going to ever have 3 40Bs on at the same time.
Hopefully not.
So that was not fun.
We can always start earlier too.
Yeah, and it's that is a thing. But we try to only have 40Bs on and 1 40B on at a night anyway.
Right. And like with Shingle Mill, where they keep continuing, it's like it just kind of takes a night away from us.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, that's it. That ends up screwing things up. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Right, Deb, what else you got?
That's it.
Rock and roll.
Oh, I know. One more thing. So there's going to be no hearing on November 1st.
So when's our next hearing? December?
No, it will be November 15th, which will be Shingle Mill.
Ah. Let's not get into that now.
So, no, I'm just saying that. So November 1st, nothing's scheduled.
Nice. Nice. Nicole, I expect you to go through those plans and shred them. All right. I want everything bad that they did on these plans. So, and again, that's a joke. You know, that's a joke for everybody. We're not looking for a reason. We're looking to see what, you know, we're looking to see what's inconsistent with the bylaw, inconsistent with the variance requests, inconsistent with state law, and, you know, again, inconsistent with the wetlands bylaw too. And that's the big thing. That's the big thing that we're going to have to, we're talking, we shouldn't be talking. So everybody, I think we're done. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at this point. I got a motion.
Second.
I got a second. Rock and roll. We got Greg Tanzi.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Haynes.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert Baker Jr.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, Mr. God.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.